Happy Tuesday, everybody. Today is September 7th, 2021, and today's guest is Tyler Bentley, and we're talking about going in blind on a travel hunt. All right. Welcome back to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and today's episode is 177. Today's guest is Tyler Bentley, one of my good buddies, and we are talking about going in blind on a travel hunt. So a lot of people that listen to the Fall Podcast, they ask me questions about like traveling to hunt. Now, a lot of people are traveling to hunt now. You know, a lot of people that didn't do it before. So questions that I get are what to expect, like whether it be budget or money or glassing and scouting or hunting, or it's just a lot of different questions I get. So I thought it'd be cool to do a podcast with Tyler because him and his buddy and my buddy Nick Kohili just went on a trip to North Dakota. Now, we recorded this the day before they left, but this is obviously going live today, and they are back now. So we're going to do a concluder podcast as well to it, but what I wanted to get into is like Nick has never been out to North Dakota. Tyler actually went like 5 years ago, but I wanted to get like that blind feeling. Like, what are some hurdles that you had to overcome? What are your expectations? How did the expectations change? And basically what the thought process was. Were you overwhelmed? Like, because North Dakota is vastly different. I mean, there's some flat areas. It is not a lot of trees and a lot of cover, so it can be very different. So we get into that today. We even talk about how much it's going to cost them to go do this hunt, and it's relatively pretty darn cheap to do it themselves. So it's a really cool podcast. Like I said, we're going to do a concluder to talk about what the mindset is now after it's all said and done. So yeah, that's what today's podcast is all about. And before we do get into that interview, I do want to say, guys, if you are looking for a trail cam, we're getting closer and closer to season. Go over to ExodusOutdoorGear.com. Check out Exodus cameras. I talk about it every week now. They are great cameras. I've got a couple cameras out right now. I got a render that is taking pictures like crazy. The pictures are cream. They're clean, crisp, clear. I love it. The app, the Scout Tech app, I really like the app as well. It's a camera that is hard to beat. It really is. And it's got a 5-year warranty, so that is also cool as well. Go check those guys out, ExodusOutdoorGear.com, and get yourself a camera. Also, I have been promoting Working Class Bowhunter for good reason. Those guys are killing it over there. They are the OGs. They are doing a lot of cool stuff over there. Go over and check them out. Check their episodes out. And, drop them a line. Tell them AB sent you guys to go to check out their podcast. So that'd be great. I am rambling. I'm ready to get off this intro. I'm going to get over this interview with Tyler. I'm going to leave you with, please go to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, and leave a written review. The written reviews go a long way. I know a lot of people listen to this podcast. Please just take a hot second, go over there and just say, love your podcast, and leave a 5-star rating. That would be greatly appreciated. So, with that being said, here's this interview with Tyler. All right, welcome back to the Fall Podcast, and today's guest is return guest, my good buddy, Tyler Bentley. Tyler, thanks for coming on, buddy, again.
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and honestly, this was kind of a last-minute deal because I forgot you guys are actually leaving tomorrow for your first hunt, you and Nick Kohili, which tomorrow in podcast land would be September 2nd. But when everybody listens to this, you guys have probably already been tagged out for a couple days, and you're probably on your way back from North Dakota. But I wanted to get on here with you before you leave because I think the situation you guys are going to is really cool, and I think a lot of people listening to this would really benefit from it because you guys are going to North Dakota basically blind. And and we'll get into the backstory on all this stuff here in a minute, but a lot of people are traveling to hunt now, and you guys are going to North Dakota early season, hoping to find a velvet deer, but not really, I don't think it's that big of a deal if you don't get one, but you guys got permission, you went out there once, put some cameras out, and now it's go time. So you have some intel, but very little. And I think it's a scenario that a lot of people are in. So I guess first and foremost, let's get into how this whole trip came about. How did you find land in North Dakota? How did it all start, basically?
Yeah, for sure, man. My buddy Nick Cohealy, he's part of the Rise Hunt with me. He actually has a buddy who lived in Michigan and moved to North Dakota about 4 years ago. So he moved out there, and the reason he moved out there was, I think, work, but he's a waterfowl hunter, and North Dakota is insane for waterfowl. There's more birds than there is deer. At least it seems that way anyways. But Nick was supposed to go to Wyoming. He was putting points in for Wyoming this year, and he didn't draw. So he called me. He's like, man, we need to do an early season hunt. I'd like to be somewhere September 1st. We're looking at all the states that are, early season. And he goes, well, I got my buddy Austin that moved to North Dakota. I wonder if we could, potentially go out to North Dakota and hunt early season. So he gave him a ring, gave him a call, and talked to him. And he's like, yeah, man, I killed a buck the first year I moved out here 4 years ago. And we're like, man, maybe this could work. So we got to talking. It all just started with a conversation because we wanted to go, out west to do some deer hunting early season. So that's kind of where it all started anyways.
So what preconceived information did he give you guys? Oh, yeah, the bucks are great out here. Or, was it any of that, or was it nothing? Just okay, we got a spot. Let's go check it out. Was it kind of that sort of deal?
It was. He's like, yeah, we might have to do some work and, put some cameras out or, some bait piles, something to try to locate this deer. He's like, it's endless amounts of land. Anybody who knows anything about North Dakota, there's no trees. I mean, hardly any trees. It's just big cattail sloughs, just wide open plains. I mean, it is remote as remote gets. But as far as, him saying what's here, he's like, I really don't know. I killed the deer the first year I was here, but he's like, if you guys both want to come out here, we're definitely going to have to put some boots on the ground and figure some stuff out.
So from doing some of your research before you went out, or, just trying to figure out what North Dakota's like, and you did go to North Dakota in the past, right, with a buddy that you were just filming them. So knowing that stuff, how is the hunting in North Dakota? What was your mindset of how are we going to get this done? Because it's obviously vastly different from what we're used to in the Midwest.
It is, man. It's totally different type of hunting, and I'm definitely not an expert at hunting big land. But when you get out there, I would say when you start getting, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe even 2 hours away, you start realizing how big and open it is and how little trees. You start to get a little bit overwhelmed. You're like, uh-oh, how the heck am I going to kill a deer out here? Because where we grew up in Michigan, it's woodlots and, ag fields, and there's only so many spots a deer can go and live. And out there, it's a little overwhelming. You start to look around, you start to get a little overwhelmed.
So definitely overwhelmed, but is it starting to make you think, now obviously as we're talking now, you have yet to hunt it, but is it starting to make you think as you're seeing it, you said overwhelmed, but very discouraged?
Yeah. I mean, it could be discouraging if you didn't already have some intel out there, or maybe I have this new understanding now. My first year out there, I was like, okay, this is impossible, but we killed on our fourth day 5 years ago, our first time to North Dakota. I haven't been back since. So this trip, I feel a little bit more optimistic. This is Nick's first time to North Dakota, so he's got scratching his head a little bit, what the heck? But it's just weird how these deer can live in cattail marshes and tall grass and no trees. I mean, we have spots that are set up with 0 trees on the back of a cattail marsh, and we set up cell cameras, and halfway home we set the cameras up, got in the truck, started driving home. Halfway home, we have pictures of shooter bucks on trail camera.
Oh my gosh. So, I guess getting into that, what kind of ag's out there? What are some ways to set up cameras and figure out where these deer are when it's so wide open and, not a lot of cover where you're at? I guess, first of all, geographically in North Dakota, where are you at? Like north, central, western, like where are you at?
I think it's like southeastern-ish, maybe. Like on the east side of the state, maybe central, a little bit south, somewhere in there.
Okay, so like what is the terrain? You said obviously very open, but like,
Fairly
is it just
flat.
really flat, not a lot of hills?
There are some gradual hills, but they're so long. I mean, it's like a mile. You can see the elevation change. Like watching the sunsets out there, dude, you can watch the sun just get eaten right up by the landscape. You can see the curvature of the earth. It's just weird looking.
Yep. So you can like watch your dog run away for a day and then stand at a beer can and watch him run for two.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So going out there, I mean, what was your plan? Like you said, you mentioned bait. You can bait out there then? Like, is that a good way to get inventory and figure out what the heck are there?
It is. So like my first trip out there, 5 years ago, we went to North Dakota completely blind. We showed up and we're like, we're scratching our heads. How the heck are we going to get deer on camera? So we were like, let's put some bait piles out, I guess, maybe not even so much so to hunt over, but more or less to try to like get some intel. And that worked, but the problem there is, okay, season started, you want to be hunting, not putting out bait piles and putting cameras out and waiting when time is limited. So
right.
I kind of told that to Nick, and Nick's buddy Austin told that to Nick also. We're all kind of on the same page, like, hey, this is going to suck, but maybe we should do 2 trips to North Dakota. It's 16 hours one way from where we live in Michigan, but maybe we should do a trip a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to our hunting trip. Go out there, set cameras, set our stands, put some corn piles out. Like I said, not so much to hunt over, but more or less just to try to get some inventory. And that's kind of what we did. So we went out there a couple weeks ago, set our stands up, set some blinds up, set trail cameras. A few of them are cell cameras, a few of them are not. But everything's all set up, baited, and like I said, we were halfway home and we already had pictures of shooter bucks. So,
jeez. So when I'm sure you guys were scouring, e-scouting when you're heading out there. So like I would think with there not being a ton of cover, when you're looking at a map or something, you're probably gravitating more towards trees or like a structure, aren't you? Like, is that how you're trying to hone in on some of these places?
That's it. You're pretty much looking for, a big slough, a cattail marsh, any trees. Trees are good. And then the other thing too is figuring out what's posted and what's not posted, because we can get into that a little bit too. In North Dakota, as long as it doesn't have no trespassing signs or a fence, we were looking at the guidelines, and don't quote me exactly on this, but essentially if it's not posted, you can hunt it. You can park your truck, you can walk in on private property, and you can go hang a tree stand, and you can hunt deer. But as far as the cyber scouting, I mean, we're looking at these maps in North Dakota. I mean, you look like you're looking at the dunes. You can't tell what's a marsh, what's a field, it's so hard to cyber scout North Dakota because it's just so difficult. It's not like the Midwest where you're looking for a pinch point, or it's just so much different. It's so big, it's so vast.
Yep.
And then when we did get out there, we're like, hey, let's check these couple pins out, these spots we wanted to look at. And these cattail marshes are all brush hogged. They're gone. They're down to the ground. And we're like, oh my gosh, this was going to be one of our better spots. And that cattail marsh is no longer there. So it took a lot of driving around to really, figure everything out.
Yeah, and especially early season. So you're going on the opener. So, deer like to bed close to food, in the summer. They don't like to get too far away. So like when you guys went out there and you're getting close to these like little woodlots and everything, which I'm guessing it's not very big. Like what I'm picturing is like maybe a dozen trees or maybe 5-acre little woodlot. Is that correct? Is that like a good assumption?
Yeah, very small. Like pretty much like tree lines, not really tree lots, but like tree lines.
Okay. So I guess my point is, like, when you're getting close to these little tree lines or woodlots or whatever, did you kick any deer out? Were you like, they've got to be bedded close, I would think.
Surprisingly, we haven't kicked a ton of deer out. I think a lot of that has to do with Austin was telling us that this is the worst drought that North Dakota has seen since 1988. All the corn, all the beans, everything is fried. It looks like it's literally late November out there right now.
Really?
And it is horrible. I mean, even just driving down the interstate, the highway, the grass is dead, like 100% dead. You don't even feel like, I don't know what it feels like. It feels weird, like you're in Africa or something. Everything's just dead.
Huh.
And that makes it tough too with, hunting over ag. Like you got beans and the beans are all pretty much dead. The corn is all dead. So that's throwing a wrench in the blender for us too.
So, but it could also be easy on the other flip side of the coin too, because you're allowed to bait. So if you do want to sit over a corn pile, like they're probably going to be craving the shit out of that stuff. Like it could probably let you hone in a little bit more on if you wanted to go that route too, I would think, right?
Yeah, it could be, it could be for sure, because like I said, we put some corn piles out on our last trip and we had bucks on camera almost immediately. Maybe that has something to do with it. The crops are so bad, the food is so scarce. Maybe that's why they're hitting the corn pile so quick.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. So I guess, I think a lot of people listening to this, and you'd probably agree, is like a lot of people are in this scenario. Like there's more and more people traveling to hunt now. I mean, it is what it is. And, looking for different trees to look at per se, or just like get into something different and try a different state. So like it can be very overwhelming, which you'd already said, and discouraging. So like when you guys were driving out there, you said it could be a little discouraging. So like take me through that first trip when you like got out of the truck for the first time to go check out some spots. Like what was your thought process?
The first time out there 5 years ago or this time?
Nope, this time.
This time, I feel like I wasn't quite as discouraged this time, just because I've done it before and we were successful. So I think this time I wasn't quite as discouraged, other than like the crops being dead and short and vast. And I think this spot was even more remote than where I was 5 years ago. So I knew it was going to take some time driving around and putting boots on the ground and walking stuff and really just, which is good because we had time. We were out there 2 weeks before season. We knew we had to put boots on the ground and get it all figured out.
Yep. So 5 years ago when you went out there for the first time, what was your thought process then when you've never been there before?
I thought it was mission impossible, man. I was like,
really?
Yeah, we shouldn't have came out here. This is going to be a waste of time and money. There's no deer here. There's no trees here. Being a Michigan hunter, I think you got to have trees to kill deer. I'm thinking deer live in the woods. No, they technically don't have to live in the woods. The deer live in the first 6 feet. If they have 6 foot of cover, they can live in it.
Yep. So, okay, I want to go more off that thought process because that's what a lot of people listening to this are probably going to go through. And that'll be like the discouraging part of like, shit, I made a mistake. So like going back 5 years ago when you're like, this is mission impossible, how did you guys get over that hump to like, well, we got to figure something out here, adapting basically. I always say like what makes a really good deer hunter, I feel like, is they can adapt to any situation. So, and be successful. So like, how did you guys get over that thought process and that hump to like, this has got to be, we got to make something good out of this, I guess.
So on that trip, what we did is we were a little bit stumped. So like I said, we went and put some corn piles out, put some cameras out in spots that had zero optimism. We're like, there's no way there's going to be deer on these cameras, but we're going to try. Let's set up a few spots and see what shows up. And let's go set up an observation stand. And we set up in this pine tree, and it was not a very good hunting spot, but we wanted to like get up as high as we could, be able to glass 1,000 yards in the evening. We almost didn't even need our bows. It was pretty much just an observation. And that first sit, we were looking, and deer are just coming out of these little ditches, just tall grass coming out of a ditch, or one would come walk out of a cornfield, one would walk out of this tiny little tree line, and we're just like, oh my gosh, there's deer everywhere. We thought there was going to be deer nowhere, because when you're looking around, you're like, there's no deer. I can see as far as, I can see as far as
right.
My eyes will let me look. And then in the evening, when that sun starts to come down, the deer just come out of everywhere, man. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't even believe there's deer there. If you drove through it, you go, nope, there's no deer here. But
wow.
Sit there in the sunset and put some time in, and you'll watch. You'll see right where the deer come out of. It's wild.
So I'd have to think 5 years ago, that first sit, when you saw that happen, it was like, okay, no, this is legit. Like this is go time. We can make this happen. Now we got to move in, kind of thing. Was that kind of your thought process?
That's exactly what it was. We were pretty went from being, this is mission impossible to, okay, maybe there are some deer here in these little ditches and crevices and stuff. So let's try to hone in on that. Let's try to find some, marshes or some big deep ditches or sloughs or anything that could potentially a deer could be bedding in and come up out of. And then we, you tie that hand in hand with some food. Maybe there's a nice bean field next to a cattail marsh. If you sat there and scouted it in the evening, you would watch deer get out of that marsh and walk out into those soybeans. So then you have to put a plan together. All right, how can I hunt them with no trees? There's the next problem.
Right, yep. So I guess coming into this, telling people listening to this, if you're going into it, would you say the first night or two really glass from a distance, like figure it out first, which kind of goes unsaid, like that's what you should probably be doing anyway, but especially if you don't really know, like always kind of, I say err on the side of caution, stay back a little bit, figure it out, then move in. So would you agree with that? Like, don't go in guns a-blazing, like maybe cast a net with your cameras like you said, and if you can bait, do that just to kind of, you got more eyes essentially, in the working at once than you might only have with yourself. So is that what you would say? Like just get in there, cast the net first and see what happens?
Exactly, man. Like scouting in Michigan is good. Depending on where you live in Michigan, it's there's so many thickets and there's houses and you can only scout so much from the truck here, in my opinion. But when you're in North Dakota and you can see, like you said, your dog run away for 2 days, you can scout from the road and you can see so much stuff. I mean, you hardly need to hang an observation stand. On this last trip, we were just out there 2 weeks ago. We drove through the night, got there super late, crashed in the house for a couple hours. I woke up and Nick's already gone. I'm like, where the heck did Nick go? It's 6 a.m. or something. And he jumped in the truck and went, and he was already out looking for deer. And he just drove the truck to the top of the highest hill he could find and got out of the truck with his spotting scope and sat on top of the hill. And he came back an hour later and he's like, yeah, I saw a bunch of good bucks, like shooter bucks from the top of this hill with my spotting scope. I'm like, no way, dude. We've been here 2 hours. You've already seen, like, how the heck? Just scouting goes so far. I mean, scouting is huge. I'm sure we could beat that dead horse forever. But when you get into that big terrain, I think scouting is the most important thing you could do.
And that goes for just about anywhere where you can scout, like you said, because I feel like us as hunters get drilled in your head that, like, you got to get in, especially if you're going on a trip that you have limited time. You might have taken 6 or 7 days off for vacation from your job, but like going in and maybe taking a day off, or a night off or something just to get eyes on like an area to figure out what's going on is key. And like I said it on a podcast not too long ago. I was on a podcast, the Whitetail Legacy guys asked me to come on their podcast, and they're asking me like in October, how am I, like the mid part of October, how is my hunts like how am I approaching it? Well, what I like to do here in Michigan, and you've seen my 1 acre farm and you know how open it is. What I like to do is like, I'll take my daughter to daycare in the morning. The mornings I can't hunt, and I'll come back and I'll glass the whole section. I'll keep driving the section, just seeing what deer are doing. And you learn so much that way. And they were like, oh, you take time off in the morning. Like my scouting would be boots on the ground, like get in the timber, which is fine also. But in an area where I can see, I'm just going to stay in the truck and do a gas and glass and figure out where they're going in. And then I'm moving in that night or the next day,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You can get some intel without having to put that pressure on those deer. I mean, you want to hunt as much as you can, but like you said, if you'd have, went in there and hunted, maybe they would have smelled you, or maybe it was the wrong wind. Well, if you're not going to hunt, then scout, in my opinion.
Right. Yep. No, I agree.
So that was Nick and I's whole thought process to have our goal is to go to North Dakota and to kill 2 bucks. And we know that's what we want to do. We want to go there. We want to be successful. So we want to do everything we can in our power to do that. And we don't really want to burn up our limited time there to hunt scouting. So we're like, all right, let's do an early trip, put the cameras out, and we'll do some scouting there. I mean, I guess in a week's time frame or 2 weeks time frame, the deer could definitely be transitioning. That velvet's going to come off. What we learned 2 weeks ago could not even be useful information now. But that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to scout 2 weeks ago, to really try to lay eyes on some deer, get the cameras out, do as much scouting as we can. So that way when we go back to hunt, we can kind of execute on our, what we scouted already.
Yep, for sure. Now, what would you say would be like a good shooter buck in North Dakota? Like in the area you're in, from what you've seen on camera, what you guys have glassed, like what are you seeing right now?
So we're seeing anything from, let's say 110-inch deer all the way up to, I think the biggest one we have on camera is probably going to go in the 60s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And I think we have, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 bucks on camera in between that 125, 135 range.
Okay. So it's a lot. I mean, it's just about like you go anywhere, you're going to get those Pope and Youngers, those 130s to 140s. There's probably going to be a plentiful amount of those, but then you're going to get the couple gaggers,
right.
The couple guys that are like in the 50s and 60s. So that's good. Like that's awesome to see. Are they still in velvet right now? You're probably getting pictures today, even with your cell cam. So are they still in velvet?
They are. They started shedding. I think we have 2 bucks that are out of velvet as of yesterday.
Okay.
I've
actually got 1 buck in Michigan right now that's out of velvet, and today's September 1st. We're recording this September 1st. So I'd like to think probably by the 7th, usually here in Michigan, September 7th, usually they're all pretty shed out by that time.
Yeah.
So
you gotta have a little bit of luck to get one in velvet. And that was kind of cool. Like our first trip, like I said, we went out 5 years ago, and our third day we were able to harvest a buck there. I was just filming. My buddy was hunting, but we killed a full velvet buck, 140 something inch buck from the ground in a ground blind. And there wasn't a tree for 10 miles. We just killed him right there in this tiny little spot. I think we were like 50 or 60 yards from an abandoned homestead. And if you were to sit there and look at that spot on, Onyx or HuntWise or to cyber scout that spot, you would say, no, I'm not going to hunt that. And even after going in there and putting boots on the ground in it, it was questionable. Is it even worth hunting? Mm-hmm. I don't know. All you can do is try. You can scout it and put some corn and camera out and hope for the best.
Yeah. So, you've already made that trip out. You and Nick went out, put some cameras up, put some stands and blinds. Going back, you're going to be leaving tomorrow, Thursday. So is Friday the opener? It
is Friday, yep.
Okay, so Friday, if you're going to get time, to get there Friday for an evening sit, like what's your plan after saying, if you're going, do some scouting. We've been talking about scouting. You've scouted a little bit already. Like, what's your plan for Friday? Are you getting right in a stand, or are you going to sit back? Like, what's your thought process right now?
I think Friday we're going to try to jump in a stand, as it's going to be, it looks like the coldest day for our entire trip. There's a smaller cold front, more of just like a weather front coming through. There's a lot of rain that's supposed to hit tomorrow. So we're actually going to be traveling right into that rain. It would have been nice if that would have happened, one day later, but it is what it is. At least the temperature is going to come down when Friday, I think it's going to be like in the low 70s, 71 or 72 is the high for opening day. So it's kind of like, ooh, you don't want to burn that day scouting because that's one of your coolest days. So we're probably going to look at our cell camera data and kind of just figure out, okay, which stand or which blind set for what wind and which one has what buck showing up. And I don't know if we're going to draw straws or flip a coin or whatever, but we're just going to use all of that data together as a big whole and kind of just make an educated decision where we're going to hunt.
Okay. So is your plan to film each other or self-film and both kind of go separate ways?
So I think because we only have a week, this trip that we're going out for is like 7, 8. Nick's like, I could go 9, maybe 10 days at the absolute most, but we're going to try to do this in like 7, 8 days is our goal. So time is kind of short. Obviously it's nice to hunt together with a camera guy because that's nice, but we want to kill deer. So we're going to spread out and we're going to self-film all of our stuff. Being in a ground blind with a corn pile out in front of you, there's not a lot of filming that's going on. You got your shit on a tripod, it's aiming at the corn pile. You don't really have much to film anyway, so.
Yep. So what's your thought process about hunting over bait? I mean, a lot of people I feel like it's kind of a love-hate kind of deal. Either you really enjoy it, you like seeing the deer, feels like you give better opportunity sometimes. Other people are just hate it. It's not hunting, it's shooting fish in a barrel. Like, where are you at with that?
I'm 50-50. I would say. I mean, I think early season is a lot like late season, and that's the easiest way to like get down on a pattern of a deer. And another reason that I'm going to use that to my advantage is A, it's legal, and B, I'm 16 hours from home. So
and you got a lot of money wrapped up too.
Yeah, yeah, we're spending a lot of money in gas and a tag and everything that we got to do to get out there. And I mean, we're doing it on a budget, but we're still spending a good amount of money. So I'm 50-50 on the bait thing, but I'd like to see somebody 16 hours away go out to North Dakota and kill one without any bait. That I don't even know if that. I mean,
early,
I'm sure early season that would be tough. I mean, maybe if you had some good crops and you knew where the deer were bedding and eating, and you could set up between them without a bait pile or something. I guess I'm not that experienced yet. I could see myself, 4 or 5 years down the road of doing this trip every year, saying, okay, I don't need a bait pile. I could really just hunt them in their own movement, I suppose, but.
Yep. Do you guys have any access to water? Because like you said, drought, is there like water tanks out in fields and stuff like that? Like, is that an option?
Yeah, man, North Dakota is full of water. I mean, which a lot of it is dried up now with the drought they got going on, but there is a lot of water. I don't know if I've ever seen so much water in one place in my life. I mean, you can almost like throw a rock.
We live in Michigan, so what's this? In
even
Michigan,
more.
At any given time in Michigan, you're 6 miles from a body of water.
Dude, I think I can throw a rock to the next pond and then go to that pond and throw a rock to the next pond.
Really?
Yeah, it is waterfall like capital of the world. I mean, there's just ducks and geese slamming in puddles and ditches everywhere. There's so much water. I mean, it's a drought, but there is just water everywhere.
Yep. So that would definitely be an option, though, too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep. So, man, I my head's going all over right now for like, what this trip's gonna. I've already penciled my trip in with you guys next year because you guys didn't invite me this year. So. But I did have to decline, before you guys even invited me because I am building a house. So it is out of the cards this year. But next year, if all goes well, I'm going next year. I want to be in on that trip. So
let's do it, man. We're going to have a blast.
I'm inviting myself.
Yeah, you're welcome to go with us for sure.
So, you guys are heading out. And what is going to be your criteria for a buck? Like, what does it got to be for you to kill it? Like, what are we talking? Size-wise, age? Like, what are we thinking?
A little bit of both. I don't want to kill an immature deer. Obviously, I'd like to kill something that's good, but I also have realistic standards. Again, I'm 16 hours away from home, and I'm doing everything I can to get one in front of me. And I think that velvet might persuade me one way or the other. It could
I could
be
see that. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Picture a nice buck coming in full velvet, and you're like, ooh. Like, he might even be just a little bit smaller than I was looking for, but if he's in full velvet, that's going to be hard to let walk. So
yeah, I could definitely see that.
I don't know if I could put an inch or an age on him or whatever. It's all going to be real situational what he is, but we have a couple that are showing up in daylight right now that are, I'm not going to have to question if I want to shoot them, in velvet or out of velvet. Yeah. So I'm praying that's what happens. I get one that's, as Nick calls, a tweener, in betweener. I don't want to see no tweeners. Like, I don't want to have to think. I want to get excited and go, oh yeah, that's what we're here for.
Well, considering Nick is probably, Nick, with all stuff aside, Nick is an unbelievable whitetail hunter, but Nick also has a horseshoe lodged so far up his keister that he's going to kill, I'm going to call it right now, he's going to kill, are you guys going to hunt mornings?
I don't think so, but he's killing first day. You can call it.
No, he's killing second night.
Second night, okay.
Yep. And you're going to kill first night.
Ooh, I'm going to kill before Nick?
Yes. Yep. Well, tide's got to change. I mean, he's got to get off the throne eventually. Like, it's
right.
I'm sick of this crap. Every time I open social media in the fall, he's got a deer down, and it's like, what the hell, man?
October 2nd, most of the time.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, like, I'm happy for you because you're a buddy, but like let everybody else have a chance. Like, just sit at home and do nothing for a couple days.
Right.
Let everybody else have the limelight.
I just want him to sit in my blind because my odds go up so much if he's just sitting there like a little garden gnome,
No, yeah, I want a gnome too. Like, I just want that little guy. You just sit there, don't move, and just be my lucky charm kind of thing.
Big buck magnet.
Yep. That's Nick Kohili. I'll put his phone number in the show notes after this, so you guys can get a hold of him. And I'll bet you if you pay him enough money, he'll come be a gnome for you. I mean, he'll be tagged out in Michigan the first 2 days, so he's got the whole season wide open, I think.
Oh, he's gonna love this.
Yeah, yep, definitely. So, I mean, what would you say, you guys? So you got 2 guys going. How much are you guys going to have wrapped up in this, like money wise, just to kind of break down for everybody out there that, it's a question I get a lot is like, how much is it, to go hunt a state or whatever. So like, I didn't even, this is on the spot question, cause I didn't even tell you to get this ready, but like, what do you, gas, food, tags, like how much do you have wrapped up, just you yourself right now?
I'm trying to do this trip for like $1,000, which is pretty insane to think about doing an out west trip, 16 hours away with the tag, gas, groceries, all that. I'm trying to, like I said, $1,000 budget for myself. And that's actually with 2 trips. That's with going out there. That's with, buying corn. That's with everything that we've bought. I don't want to spend over $1,000 because I got money that I'm saving for the fall and the rut trips and, vacation time, all that stuff that you're saving for in the fall. You don't want to burn it all up in September and then not be able to travel in October. So,
right.
But I want to say, my truck was getting like 650 or 700 miles of the tank, which it's a newer diesel, but I was filling up in Michigan. I think we did 1 fill up, like halfway there, whatever it was. And then, halfway back, filled up again. Like, I think I got out there for like $150.
That's pretty damn good with gas prices like now. Thanks, Joe Biden.
Yeah. So that'll be the cool thing about next year. If you do decide to go with us, if you're serious about that, more people you put in your truck, cheaper it gets because now you're splitting gas 3 ways.
Yep. No, I am serious about next year. As long as I'm not on another trip, I'm serious. I'm going. So
nice. Yeah, dude, for sure. That's like, if I were to do this by myself, this trip would cost me $500 more.
Exactly. Yep. You just break down the cost a little bit more. If you have more guys.
But I want to say the tag, I haven't even bought my tag out there yet, but I want to say it's like a 270 or 280 or something.
What do you get with that tag?
I want to say it's 1 either sex tag. I could be wrong.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I've heard it's a pain in the ass to get a rifle tag out there. I guess somebody was telling me that it takes like 8 years to get a rifle tag for a resident in North Dakota, really? Which I could have heard that wrong, but he was like, yeah, he just got a rifle tag, took him this long. I was like, what the heck, as a resident? Something else that's interesting, off topic, I'm kind of transitioning a little hard, but when we were out there, we were driving around. Every deer that we seen driving was running. I mean, these are the most skittish deer I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
And I've never seen deer that skittish. I mean, from the Midwest to Michigan to anywhere. I mean, if you could see a deer, I don't care if it was 600 yards away, if it seen the truck, it was running, like dead sprint.
I wonder if they have like a lot of poaching problems.
I don't know if it's poaching. I just think North Dakota is so big in the rifle hunters, and I don't know if they shoot them out of the truck or what they're doing. I have no idea, but I've never seen deer so skittish, and I guess it's everywhere in North Dakota is what I heard.
What are you seeing on cameras? Like when they're coming into a corn pile, are they acting kind of skittish as well, you think?
No, not too bad, actually. It seems like they're just coming in and chowing down just like a normal buck would at a corn. I mean, almost like more comfortable than you would suspect. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty interesting as well. But I think a lot of that is, I don't think there's a lot of bow hunters out there. These deer probably aren't seeing bow hunting pressure. Right. When we went out 5 years ago, like I told you about, we talked to a farmer down there, and we said, yeah, we're hunting. He said, oh, season don't open for another month. And we said, no, we're bow hunting. And this dude was knee slapping. He's like, you think you're going to kill a deer from the ground? You're so funny. He's smacking his knee, and we're like, 3 days later, he pulling his driveway with a 140-inch velvet buck. He's like, holy shit. He's calling all of his friends, come look at these Michigan boys. They just killed a big-ass buck. Like, he was like, holy shit. Even a local didn't even know that could be done in a way. So that's how much, that's how little of bow hunting pressure those velvet bucks and early season bucks are getting.
That's crazy, man. So when you were there 5 years ago, did you see any other hunters?
No, I didn't see any hunters. I didn't see a single hunter. Yeah,
and it's you'd think you would, because with all the land out there that's not posted, and that being the only state, that if it's not posted, you can hunt it basically. You'd think you'd see some hunters around me, and it's like, essentially a lot of public land.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy. You didn't see anybody else, but the land that you guys are hunting, is it all posted? Because it's all private, right?
Yeah, it is all private. So it's kind of a unique situation. The one cool thing about Nick's buddy Austin being out there is he did a little bit of, scouting for us, like scouted out some property that would be good. And also, like I said, he's a waterfowl hunter. So he's trying to essentially lock down these non-posted farms for himself to waterfowl hunt as well. So, I mean, he lives out there. He gets to know all these neighbors, these farmers, friends of friends. And he finds these farms that are, pretty good farms, like whether they have ag on them or cut wheat fields for waterfowl or some thickets for deer hunting. He gets to know the farmer and goes, hey, what do you think about me posting your property? I'll exclusively hunt it. If you need deer killed or birds killed, I'll kill them. Let's take it from a not posted to a posted piece of property. And then now he has exclusive rights to hunt that. So that's what he's done. And I want to say he's built up 7,000 acres of that was not posted that is now posted, and that's what we're hunting.
Yep. Which essentially probably a good vast majority, a percentage of that is probably not even huntable for deer, just
Right.
because the lack of, lack of trees and lack of, cover, basically,
Right.
I would think.
It sounds impressive saying, 7,000 acres. I'm probably hunting 3 different 1 acre marshes. So I have like 3 little spots. Like it just sounds crazy, like how much land you can lock down, but really it might only narrow down to a few spots.
Yeah. Well, I can't not wait to get that phone call. I better be getting the phone call that says, we got one stuck. But so you guys are going out to film for the Rise. So everybody listening, if you haven't heard of the Rise digital series, you guys are on Carbon TV and on YouTube. You guys do your segment series. So kind of break down like your segment series and when this trip will probably go live and what segment.
So this trip is going to be segment 1. Normally segment 1 airs like October 15th, because starting October 1st, we have to, get 2 weeks of footage and, whether it be a kill shot or an encounter, that type of stuff, we have to get it together to launch our first segment October 15th. But this year, doing an early season hunt, we are going to use this entire month of September to build segment 1. So that's kind of cool. So segment 1 hopefully is going to be a banger this year, is kind of our goal.
Yep.
But the segment series is essentially a series that myself and a few buddies put together. We spend roughly 100 days hunting in the fall, and we break those 100 days down into 7 segments, and they're basically about a 2-week segment. And we post these hunts online, like Aaron said, on Carbon TV and YouTube. And they're in like a 2-week semi-live thing. So every 2 weeks we drop a video. Every 2 weeks we drop another video, or a segment is what we call them. And it's kind of, like I said, that semi-live video format, so people throughout the season can follow along with us and watch the hunts as they're happening. It's still kind of time relevant, so that's super cool.
Yep. Very cool, man. I can't wait to see all your content come out this year. I always enjoy watching it. Now, I got a hard transition because I just thought of something, and it's a hot button topic right now, and it has been for a little while, but you guys are using cell cams right now. I use cell cams. You had mentioned, you're going to take your cell cam data and you're going to evaluate where you need to go. Now, that being said, you're obviously for cell cams. When is it too far for cell cams, like you've taken it too far kind of thing in your mind?
When people are, which thankfully in Michigan you can't bait right now, and if you had a bait pile out and somebody goes, oh look, there's a buck on my bait pile, and they grab a rifle and go shoot it, that's too far for me. Yep. I think that's the part that scares me about cell cameras, is that data is too accessible, because I feel like the hunting community and 90% of hunters, or maybe 95% of hunters, are all really good people, are hunting for the right reason. But there is that small percentage that are a little bit, I don't even have to say it, and I'm scared that small percentage of people might abuse that technology to poach deer or to stack the deck, I guess, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And do you think that cell cams have taken away from woodsmanship or taken away from like the pursuit of the hunt at all since they've come out?
I don't think so. I don't think it's took the pursuit away. I think I'm a little bit, I'm not going to say sad because I like the niceness of just getting the picture sent to my phone, but I do miss like going to my farm, checking cameras, driving a 15-minute drive home with all those SD cards going, oh, what's on these? You know, it's just kind of just evolved. It changed kind of the way things are. And I think that things are changing, but I don't think it's necessarily for the worse, because I think you're going to see a lot more people have a lot more success because they're not putting that pressure on their property going in and checking cameras all the time.
Right. Yeah. I did some scouting today in a property that, it's the 1 acre property. It's broken up. I've said this before. There's a patch of 5 acre timber, roughly, that's in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a whole bunch of ag fields. And went in there today because I'm going to hang a set stand, but I'm trying to get into a certain area in there. And there's a scrape in there that literally is there every year, and it honestly, in a way, almost kind of looks like a mineral pit, because it's like, it's there every year. It's dug out, like no grass grows there. I went and looked at it today, and there's no grass there, and the grass is like, waist height all the way around it. And the licking branches, there's no leaves grow on it anymore. It's literally like just a dead branch. And the deer hit it every year. And honestly, the last 2 years I've been really kind of honing in on it late season. Like, if I go put a camera on there, let's call it like Thanksgiving on, I'll pick up a buck, and he might be like a 100-inch 8-pointer, but I will pick up one, and it's just something, I don't know why, they just hit that scrape. So I'm trying to figure out a way to hunt it and get a stand in there. But in this instance with cell cams, it's 5 acres or less, and when you walk in there, you're blowing everything out when you go in there. You know what I mean? So and the good, I guess, one of the pros to this is that the scrape is kind of on the south end of it a little ways. You're only going into the timber probably 50 yards to get to a stand, but in that instance, I'm looking to put a cell cam over that scrape, and I'm starting to try to learn more, like when deer are starting to hit scrapes more, like early on. Like, is the light bulb coming on and they're hitting scrapes October 5th? Is it September 20th? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out during the season, like when they're starting to hit it, because I like hunting scrapes.
Yeah.
If it's a cold front and, it's mid-October, like I've shot a couple deer over a scrape doing that. So like, I really like to hone in on scrapes, see them, but all scrapes are treated differently. They need to be treated differently because they're all different. You got field edge scrapes, you got cover scrapes, you got in timber scrapes that are mature, and you know what I mean? So it's like, You got to analyze everyone so differently. But I guess that was the long form of me saying, like, that's a good spot for me to like put a cell cam in a small acre patch that you want to monitor, that you don't want to go in there and leave scent in, because I'm essentially right in the belly of the beast of where all the deer want to be, So that's kind of how I'm using them. But so everybody's different too. So
yeah, I mean, if that was a regular trail camera and you wanted that data now, like if you were going to use that data for this season and you had to go in there, apply that pressure, put that scent in there, check that camera. Okay, now they're on scrapes. Well, now you did damage by going in and checking that camera. So having that, the cell camera and having that data sent right to your phone, and you didn't do damage on that scrape, now you can actively go in and hunt it. That's the ticket. That's the right way to use cell cameras, in my opinion.
Right. Yep. And that's what I'm going to get into. I'm going to put a cell cam on this here probably this week. I'm going to hang a stand in there this week, and I'm done. Like, I'm not going back in there. And I'm not essentially, like, I'm monitoring it, yes. Like, if a buck shows up, I'm getting in there, like, as soon as possible to, he's in the area. I'm going to do that. Now, a lot of people could say that is the wrong way to do it. They're legal here. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but yes, when you're abusing them, I agree with you. When, you got a bait pile or it's gun season and you got it on a field edge and you're sitting on one edge of the field and it's like, oh shit, he's over there right now. I'm going to sneak over this hill and I'm going to blow him up. That's too far.
It is.
That takes away all the hunting part of it,
For sure.
But, in my opinion, I say it all the time, you're hunting an away game all the time. I don't care if it's your private property, you've hunted it for 30 years. You're hunting a away game. Those deer live and breathe there, and every day, every minute, every second of their existence. And, let's be honest, at one point they can be predictable, but then they can be very humbling as well. When you think you know it, you don't.
Right.
So any way to stack the deck a little bit, maybe. I still don't think it's stacking the deck in our favor totally. Like, no. I don't think it went from like a huge percentage, like, oh yeah, it's 80%, we're going to kill this deer now. Well, I don't think it's that. No. But I think it is it's a tool to use to be able to figure out what's there and when he's there. And honestly, Justin Hollinsworth said it best. He uses cell cams a lot, and he likes getting that instant data, and he likes to be able to, get a picture to his phone and be like, okay, what's the weather doing? Wow, they're moving and it's 75 degrees on a northwest wind. He's coming in here on northwest wind all the time. All right, that's a key contributing factor right there, okay? I need to start honing it. And he's like, it made me such a better hunter getting that instant data, and that's when I was like, light bulb, like, maybe I should try this a little bit. And ever since then, I love getting instant data and figuring out and asking myself why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Instead of pulling the card, whenever you pull it and then having to go back 2 weeks on Weather Underground, like, okay, what happened that day?
Yeah.
What happened that day? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not time relevant anymore. That's the big thing. We've always dissected those photos. It's essentially science is what it is, going back and looking at the barometric pressure, the wind direction, all this stuff. But it's 2 weeks later, because you're trying to not apply pressure on these trail cameras when you check them. So now that you have that data sent right to your phone, you can dissect it right in real time. Right. That's the biggest thing. You're using it for intel. So if you're using it for intel to, like you said, see if this buck's hitting a scrape now, okay, now they're hitting scrapes. That's not you, okay, now I can kill that deer. No, now you just know the deer are hitting scrapes. Maybe I'm going to target some scrapes now, so.
Right.
That's using it the right way.
Well, and to kind of break down this tree and this scrape and everything, it sucks for one reason. The tree that the scrape is under is like the most dynamite, like, tree stand tree.
Oh.
And there's no trees around. I mean, there's trees around it, but they're all like spindly, like just brushy trees. You know what I mean? This is the only like mature tree in the area. So I'm like, gosh, like, do I really want to put a stand right above this scrape? Like, and getting into it and getting out of it and everything. And it's like, I feel like it's my only option.
Right.
So I got to break that down as well and try to figure it out in my head what I want to do. So
I've never hunted out of a saddle, but I mean, that's apparently the ticket to those crooked ass trees is just getting in there with a saddle.
Yeah.
That's probably what I should be trying to do in North Dakota, because the tree that I have my stand in, I'm not happy with it. It's
really,
yeah, there's like 10 trees in there and they're all crooked as hell. And I'm just in there and I hung it kind of crooked, and it is what it is. It's that or be on the ground in a ground blind. And I don't really want to hunt out of a ground blind. I have spots that are going to be in a ground blind. I can't see. I like being able to see.
I agree. Yep.
So I think I'd rather sit in a crooked stand, 10 foot off the ground, than sit on a ground blind and I can only see 10 foot out of.
Yep. Well, I want to close it out here. I got a question for you to close it out. If anybody out there listening to this is going to do a trip like this, it might not even be to North Dakota, it's just like a traveling trip, what are a couple like key things you would tell them to, like, just be aware of, whether it might be like a budget or, glassing or, scouting, whatever? Like, what are some things that you'd say, like, definitely do this, if you're wanting to travel to hunt?
Probably all the above. Everything we've talked about in this whole podcast, from, cyber scouting to, just, I think the biggest thing is being able to adapt and not being afraid to fail. Like, if you're going to go hunt a new state, especially a state you've never been to, you're going to get your ass whooped. You're not just going to go in there and kill. I guess we got super lucky. There was a ton of luck involved, but like in Missouri, I've been hunting in Missouri out of state this will be my third season. I have yet to kill a deer in Missouri, and I'm okay with that. I'm learning. And I'm not afraid of failing. I think it's important that a lot of people are afraid to, I could never hunt that state because I don't know. Well, no, go in there, expect to get your ass kicked, expect to learn, expect to fail. Put the time in and learn and scout and just do everything you can to just take it all in, from data from cell cameras to scouting and glassing to driving around to meeting locals and seeing what they're shooting and what they're doing, and just cluster that all up. Use everything you can in your power to try to be successful. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well said, man. I like that. Let's close it out there. And I think when you guys get back, I want to do another podcast, maybe get Nick on here as well. And let's do a conclusion podcast. I honestly think you're going to kill first night. Nick's going to kill second night. You guys will be home before Monday.
Oh my gosh. Let's hope that happens.
Like, when this goes live, you guys will already be back home with $2 and, just gearing up ready for your next trip. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to call it right now.
I'm going to be pulling my hair out. I've hunted all my spots. I haven't seen a single deer.
Yep. They're winding you and,
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, geez. Well,
you guys will be home by Monday. Trust me.
Let's hope.
Good deal, man. I appreciate you coming on and doing this. And, good luck out there.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, there you have it. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on. It's always great catching up with him. And like I said, we are going to come up with a concluder podcast here and I think we're going to try to get Nick on as well. I'd like to get Nick and Tyler on just to get both their point of views on how their trips unfolded. So that'll be cool as well. So with that being said, go over to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, leave a review. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for all the support and all the downloads. Last month, August, was a huge month. Thank you guys very much. Good luck this fall. And don't forget, we'll be right here next week on the Fall Podcast.